forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based.
Hi, Surya. Hi, Mario. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. So, what questions do we have today?
Okay, so the first feature question says, even if 6 or 7 criteria are satisfied, why might USCIS still deny an application due to insufficient demonstration of sustained acclaim?
Absolutely. Now, here we have to understand that you don't get EB1A because you are fulfilling the criteria. I have been essentially saying that, always been saying, and this is like, that has been more of our signature line from the Next League program. You get EB1A because of only 3 things. Number 1 is that you are an expert. Number 2, your expertise is beneficial to the US. And number 3, you will continue in the field of endeavor. There is nothing beyond this. Now, when we talk about expertise, it's a function of essentially the knowledge that you have acquired over the years and the impact that you have created. You see, for the purpose of EB1A, you can't have a one-time, some kind of a, applause or some kind of an event, a phenomena that is a successful. It needs a consistent and sustained kind of a meritorious disposition for an individual. And that's kind of would be beneficial for the people here. Now, sustained acclaim is very important because it's a legislated part of it actually. So in fact, much more than sustained acclaim, there is also equally important is that there is a totality of evidence and final merit determination. So essentially, when we talk about expertise, when that you are an expert, you have to be at the top 1% or the 10% in your field of endeavor. And that's the reason that even if you forget, we have even seen people that who met not only 4, 5 or 6 criteria, but even up to 8 criteria and still they got rejected. We have seen that happening in certain cases actually, and that would continue to happen in that case if things are not articulated in a proper manner. Okay. So just I think for the benefit of all, let's understand that this is going to be one of the most important aspects. Don't try to focus on the criteria. Please try to focus on the sustained acclaim actually, always. Okay, that's all for this particular question today. So let's move to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next question is from an anonymous user. They asked, based on your experience, Ranjeet, what differentiates a strong EB1A candidate from an average one, and how do you identify those strengths early in the process?
Okay, first, we don't identify the strength early in the process. Let's understand that actually. We have seen people who are 26-year-old people. We have seen people who are 30-year-olds, and they have earned their EB1A successfully by following certain process and continuously evolving themselves as more mature professionals. Now, there are 3 dimensions of success that we look at it from Next League program perspective. Number 1, your professional standards. This helps us to understand that, what has been your career trajectory? What has been your most likely your field of endeavor? Okay. Now, this is even before we start the done process actually, which is our proprietorship process in terms of define, organize, nurture, and execute. This is even before that. So we see your professional standards. Number 2, we evaluate you based on whether you can kind of commit 10 to 15 hours per week. If you cannot do, well, it's not possible for us. And third, and the most important thing is your coachability. Are you coachable or not? So these are the 3 things we like to see. If you meet these 3 dimensions, you cross a particular threshold, we are more than happy to have you. Now, once you are in the program, remember, as you progress towards your success, there are again 3 pillars for your EB1A success. First is you have to be an expert. Now, when we talk about, what differentiates a strong EB1A candidate from an average one, number 1, an average one is never an expert in this field. Remember that. When you say that you are a DevOps engineer, you say that you are a software professional in app development. You are there is some kind of a forte that you have. Now, one needs to be an expert in some field of endeavor, which is very important. And being an expert doesn't mean that you have knowledge. I will just shortly talk about it, that what is important, but let me complete these three pillars. So the first is that you have to be an expert. Second is you need to understand EB1A. So we teach you for that actually, what is EB1A, how to navigate through the process, etc. And the third part is how to present yourself, how to draft recommendation letters, how to draft expert opinions. We teach you that also actually. Now, coming back to the first part, what I mentioned, that you need to be an expert in your field, and that's the quality of a person that gets differentiated. So I repeat what I said. First part is that before you even come into the program, your three items that we would like to evaluate is your professional standards. Number two is your your whether you can commit time, and third is whether are you coachable. And once you meet this, then we talk about another three aspects, which is your expertise. Number two is whether how much you learn about EB1A, and third is how much you learn to know and how do you present yourself before USCIS in terms of expert opinions, recommendation letters. But one of the most important ingredient is when you claim yourself to be an expert, it's not about how much you know about your expertise. The most important thing is that what problems have you solved. Experts don't talk, they solve problems. Now, what kind of problems in your field of endeavor that you have solved? So typically answering your questions in a straightforward manner, that, okay, what differentiate a strong EB1A candidate from an average one? The most important aspect is what kind of problems, business problems, scientific problems, or anything that the person would have solved in his job or otherwise. And are they scalable? Have they been, have they been recognized? Have they been appreciated? I think these, and how many people were impacted by virtue of those problems that one has solved? What level of expertise is required to do that? And how did you possess that expertise? Now, this is something which is very important. Just to go a little deeper into this, when we talk about and try to identify a candidate, I think there are some people who have solved a problem which has resulted, and what has been the impact of you solving that problem? That is the most important. It results in saving time. It results in earning millions of dollars for individuals. That's the kind of thing that we would look at. And that would differentiate. So focus on learning and focus on solving some big problems which has not been attempted so far, or something, a unique approach that you are doing. And that's what expertise is called. Experts don't talk, they solve problems. Remember that. So if you are able to focus on this area, guys, I think then you are on the track of becoming an EB1A ready. Okay. So let's move to the next question.
Another ask, how do you ensure the evidence, narrative, and strategy all stay aligned so that petition feels cohesive and compelling to an adjudicating officer at the next lead program?
I think it's pretty straightforward that how we ensure that evidence, narrative, and strategy. Remember, there are three elements to any evidence. Evidence has to be credible, authentic, and probative. As long as, so what does it mean? Let's say you are trying to prove a kind of a critical role that you worked in a particular company. Now, what does credible, authentic, and probative means in these cases? Now, who is talking about what actually? The first is, it has to be credible. It means the person who is giving you that letter, let us say letter of recommendation for critical role, has to be somebody credible. You can't get it from your juniors. You can't get it from your colleagues. It has to be somebody who supervised you and who has authority over you. The person may or may not be in the company at this particular moment, but at the time of the period that you are mentioning was definitely in the organization. If you are able to do that, I think that is something that makes it, kind of a credible. Now, what is authentic here? It doesn't mean, okay, it has to be genuine. It will not be on the letterhead, but yes, it has to be genuine. Second, what are the metrics that you are trying to use here. That would obviously, part of it would come under probative aspect of it, that how do you say what are the metrics for success, what are the qualitative metrics and what are the quantitative metrics. If you are able to establish that, that is wonderful actually here. And most important thing, and I think you kind of move a little further here, is how does it show your expertise, benefit to the US, and your continuity. If you can show this through your evidence, that is the best way to do things actually. So, I mean, we try to kind of inspire people, all the students in the program, to follow this particular route. Okay, so that's how we would like to do it. So let's move to the next question, guys.
Yeah, actually. So the next question they ask, what is the most common misconception candidates have about the EB1A process, and how do you correct it in your coaching?
I think fundamentally, when almost 99% of the people, when they come in, they feel that, oh, they just fulfill 2 criteria and they just need another one. And I think I don't want to, I mean, it's not nothing wrong in thinking like this, because typically all other visa categories are checklist based. If you look at EB2, you need to have a checkbox. You know, you are a master's, you have to have experience and things like that actually. So, I mean, it's very but obvious that somebody looks at those 10 criteria and it says that at least 3 criteria. It is very natural that, somebody feels that, oh, I fulfilled 2 of the criteria. There is nothing wrong in that. Possibly even when I was thinking about EB1A for the first time, I felt that way. But I think nuance comes in when you read in more detail that you need to be in the top 1% or top of your field. I think that's the biggest challenge. So you have to define those success metrics there and try to meet them actually. So the biggest misconception that I have seen is about the criteria and not understanding the sustained acclaim part of it actually, that we discussed in the first question there. So I don't think there is anything. People have various misconceptions or misunderstanding about the entire process, and definitely we try to help them to navigate. And so this is a very interesting question, I would say that actually here. So, and if somebody has more questions and somebody is wanting to join EB1A, please reach out to us in the link that would be given below, and we'll be happy to help you. Okay, let's move to the next question.
Of course. Next, we have, what signals do you look for in a profile to decide whether someone should build depth in one criterion versus spread across multiple criteria?
I think it's a very, very interesting question. I would just say that, but rather than just calling this a question, whether one should go into deeper, it depends on the quality of evidences. Sometimes, let's say there was one particular gentleman we had in our program. He kind of made an app for his company, one of the leading financial institutions. That app was used, for some financial app actually, and it was sold for some couple of $1 million, and with some ex-customers. It was a B2C product actually. Now that could easily go as an original contribution. But now remember one thing, the quality of evidences that the person produced were very in-depth actually. In the sense, he could produce the prototype of the app that was created. There were a chain of email communications that was prepared. Now there were a lot of aspects. There was a white paper that was prepared. Now all these aspects put together would easily make this as an original contribution. Now, if that gentleman would not have been able to get all these things but accept a simple letter, then this would have gone as a critical role only. Now here comes a question that what is the detail and what are the metrics that you are able to produce? First of all, I would never like to suggest that you go for the criteria if you cannot establish your maturity in terms of your expertise. Otherwise, don't go for that criteria. Simple. If you can depict the maturity of your expertise and then kind of show an impact, then only go for that particular criteria. Otherwise, don't go. So it is not about spreading, because there is no point in weak criteria or the strong criteria, but definitely there is something called as an anchor criteria, that demonstrates your total expertise. So I would say that the quality of your evidences have to be very, very strong. And as your every evidence should demonstrate your sustained acclaim. Now, sustained acclaim in a criteria, now I'm not talking from a sustained acclaim from an overall profile perspective, in from a criteria should also demonstrate that how your expertise was used to execute that particular initiative, what we are talking about. It could be even a judging for that matter. It could be even, let us say you're going for a membership. So you did some work, you wrote an articles, you kind of were a chapter head in your region. Now that is very, very important here. And if you are able to establish that, that's something helps to kind of argument your criteria actually. So let's take the last question, guys, now.
Yeah, absolutely. So our last question, they ask, how do you, we can kind of piggyback from what you had just said, but essentially they ask, how do you help someone transform existing work? So this is job responsibilities, projects, patents, publications into EB1A credible evidence rather than just starting from scratch.
Okay. Now, it's a very, this could have been one of the featured questions. In fact, I would like to say this. Let's say, for example, somebody has a 10 years of experience. I would like to just take a step back before we even try to answer this question. And somebody is earning, let us say, 200K. At the back of the envelope has shown that on an average, if you take the first year salary of that person and bring it down to the inflation and adjust it to the inflation on today's rate, then second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, all the years if you do it, an average salary typically for the person earning around 200 to 220 would be around 150K per year. Now, for 10 years, the person has earned approximately $1.5 million overall in the today's value. It means that let's also understand that if somebody pays you X amount, would expect a return of 20X. So it means that the person has created a value of 1.5 into 20X, that is around 1.5 into 2, that is $30 million. Now, can you articulate those $30 million into specific items or metrics? If one is able to do that, we try to look at that. Then we try to see that, what has been the metrics or in terms of expertise that runs common amongst all the things. Because this also helps to define an expertise actually. Because what happens is many people associate expertise by virtue of the work that they are doing or the job profile or education qualification or business title, but that's not the right way to do it. So you have to reverse engineer the impact that you have created into an expertise actually, and that becomes the right way to do it. So, and then we have to see that, okay, what problem did you solve? If you are able to get evidences of the solution of the problems in terms of how many people were impacted, what is the timeline, what is the temporal scope of your expertise, can it survive with it? What was the solution that you adopted? Was it even tried before? Was any theory used to solve that problem? If you are able to articulate that, there was one particular gentleman in our program who created who created an app, not really an app, but yes, a software that could replicate automated signing. Actually, the company used to spend $200,000 to $300,000 each year to get certain documents signed externally. He created the document himself actually there, and that kind of was beautiful way of kind of cost saving. But he created his own software that helped to do that for the company. Now that could go as an original contribution because it replicated something that was although it was existing, but that did kind of created a pathway for new learning for people to do in the field. Now, these are some of the things that happen. So depending on, typically what I have seen is, with my own experience, I can say after having kind of studied over 1,000 cases in EB1A, meeting at least 100 achievers, now we have 50 from our own program also, I can say that person who has typically 10 years of experience, at least earning around at least 150K plus, definitely there would be some kind of an original contribution that can be checked actually, can be assessed depending on the nature of activity and the problem that person has solved. And although the salary may not be a good metric to do that, but this becomes a good tool for evaluation, at least the first point of discussion. So that's all we have today, friends. And please reach out to Syria or Mario. If there are any other questions, please join us. If anybody wants to come here on the live show, we are happy to help and wish you all the best and have a wonderful weekend. Bye bye. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any further questions or need personalized guidance, please reach out to us. We are here to help you every step of the way in your journey towards achieving your American dream. Let's connect and make it happen together.